All right, Brambro back with some Grand Tactician Civil War, our CSA campaign in the 1.06 beta. In the last episode, there wasn't too much going on. We kind of got Sidney Johnston's Army of Tennessee concentrated here at Covington, Kentucky, in order to go back across the Ohio River and retake Cincinnati. And that's what I intend to do in this episode. The other thing that occurred was we had some naval action here, not only in the Chesapeake Bay, but also up in the lower Potomac River. And we've now got pretty much control of the Chesapeake Bay over here, which I think is pretty cool. And so that segues a little bit into, I've done a little bit of off-camera Navy stuff. The first point is that I had remarked before that, now that we've seen that little gunboat fleets, not just, well, they're not really fleets. They're all these little so-called fleets along the Ohio River are just one gunboat apiece. Initially, I just put them there just for vision, and it turns out that they have an impact on enemy use of river transport. And so based on that, I built some more gunboats. Those completed. And so now I've got more little gunboat fleets building at various river ports in the big river system over here. And so we're going to have more gunboat fleets all along the Ohio. I'm just infesting the Ohio with gunboats. Just spaced really close together. The idea being that they just can't get on the river without coming into the combat radius of one of our little gunboats, and that appears to be enough to make them go back up the river or go back to their side. And that's new in my experience. I'm happy about that. The other thing that I've done is, now that we have established control of the Chesapeake Bay, let me turn that front line overlay off. We're now able to blockade Annapolis and Baltimore. Baltimore is a pretty big port, but I don't want this particular fleet tied to that. This is I renamed it the Battle Squadron because that is our primary naval combat force. Flagship is our one true ironclad, the CSS Virginia, accompanied by 7 frigates. So I don't want these guys tied up with blockading these Maryland ports. So I've created a new fleet down here and just threw some steamers in it. I think there may be a couple of double enders. And this is going to be our Chesapeake Blockade. So they're still forming, low readiness, but when these guys are ready, they're going to come up and assume the blockade duties up here, and that will free up our battle squadron to go further down the coast and just going to start lifting the blockade, at least on the Atlantic side. I also renamed, initially, these were the Atlantic Raiders, but I mean, we're establishing a proper blockade of Union ports now, and we'll continue to do so as long as their Navy allows us. And so this is now the Narragansett blockade. This little piece of water here in Rhode Island. This is Narragansett Bay. That's why I named it that. And then at some point, and I've got a few more little steamers building, and at some point we'll form another little kind of steamer blockade fleet to go up here, and that will be the New York blockade. So that's the plan over there. On the riverside, now even though we've found more uses for these little gunboats, these are still not combat ready fleets, and these over here are actually in defensive mode, because I would really prefer that they not engage this Mississippi River Squadron up here at St. Louis. At some point, it's not an immediate plan, but I talked last episode about how I'm continuing to kind of maintain kind of status quo, semi-defensive, at least strategically, through the rest of this year. But at some point, I think we're going to want to come up the river, take St. Louis, and pursue that Missouri secession objective again, and that might be next year in game time. When that time comes, though, I'm gonna need to do something about this Mississippi River Squadron fleet, and so I have already formed my own Mississippi River Squadron, and this is the New Orleans Squadron that was originally formed to deal with the blockade fleet here, which was done, and that fleet never came back. So I'm leaving the Biloxi Squadron here, but I've transferred our few river warships. Have not researched any projects to build those, but the game did start us with 2 Cottonclads and 1, I think it's called the Timberclad. So the 3 that I had, I put them in this Mississippi Squadron. There's a few steamers or something in with them, and they are coming up the river now, somewhere around Memphis, I think. And their eventual job is going to be to take out this Mississippi River Squadron fleet and establish our control of the Mississippi up as far as St. Louis. Okay, so that's kind of an update on the Navy stuff. Let's have a look at projects and finances. The first thing to point out is in finances, because I took that tariff act, yeah, our tariff revenue has bumped up considerably to the point where our deficit has dropped to an even 1 billion. It was up around 1.2 or 1.3 billion, and the tariff act did help that a good bit. And kind of the moral of that story is, as long as one doesn't care about European relations, that's a good act to take. Apparently. Our private wealth is coming up. This is the private wealth graph here, and this continued on pretty well. Matter of fact, we were well ahead of the Union. And this big drop right here was when the economy changed in 1.0627. That's what this big falling off a cliff is. But since then, private wealth is steadily increasing. And pretty interesting, it's kind of the same same dynamic occurred to both us and to the AI. Now the Union has pretty much gotten back up to where they were before that economy change. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to ours, if we will continue to rise up to where we were before, or if this is just kind of where things are going to level out for both sides. I don't know. But we do have a positive, growth in private wealth. And I kind of don't want to mess with that. We did complete the letters of marque while I was off camera, running time a little bit. And I know I said I kind of wanted to wait until we dealt with the Virginia support issue, which we are kind of doing. Then I went ahead and started working on impressment, which does drop support, but it further increases our number of recruits and significantly drops the cost of supplies. So I went ahead and took that, and that'll be done in about 3.5 weeks. Once this is done, I'm not real sure where to go next. War bonds is a kind of break glass in case of emergency in my mind, because it'll bump up our credit rating 2 points. Where we're at with the credit rating, I'm not feeling the need to do that, because it also hits public wealth pretty hard, and I don't think I want to fool with that, at least not for the moment. So this isn't a, oh my god, I'm never taking that. But this is kind of a, I'm not feeling compelled to take it yet. So we'll just keep that in our back pocket. these print notes acts are a little bit more of, I really don't want to do these unless I absolutely have to. I mean, it's just printing money. I mean, that also is going to lower public wealth, and we will get more money, but yeah, short-term relief results in inflation, and that's what happens. not to go all kind of real world, but we're kind of seeing that happen now. Not in game, but all right. We currently have 9 policies, not acts, policies. And it's capped out only because I've reduced the political subsidies, and that's because all the policies I want, the remaining 3 we're going to get are not going to be unlocked until just before 1863, and that's going to be military 3, industry 4, and government funding 3. Okay, so we can't take those now, and that's why the political subsidies are reduced, like I did an episode or 2 ago. So I'm saving these policy slots. We can have up to 12 until then. And I'm not seeing too many other acts up here that are really catching my fancy. Don't want to do these. War bonds, back pocket, in case needed. I guess I could be talked into the Revenue Act, maybe. It doesn't specifically say that it lowers public wealth, but the tooltip description certainly implies that it will. So I'm not sold on this. I'm not dead set against it. I don't think we need to take bounties at this point, because that will specifically drop volunteer units morale. And with our draft situation, I don't think we need the manpower, volunteer manpower. I am not interested in regulars because this drops military experience. And I'm not terribly interested in civilian warships because this reduces river transport capacity, and frankly, we're not doing that great on river transport capacity. Plus, we're getting plenty of little steam. I'm building some, they're not that expensive anyway, and I'm capturing a lot of them from the Union. So, we've got plenty of them. So, I guess where I'm going with this is I might unlock impressment, and then we might just not take anything for a couple of months until Chapter 3 unlocks. Which then turns around to, I'm not 100% sure that increased administrative reform project, we put money into that to make us research these things faster. And then we reach a point where we might go several months with nothing that we particularly want to research. So I'm not 100% sure that was a good use of subsidies. Maybe it would have been better to plow even more of that money into the railroad project instead. Okay, projects. With the recent improvement in our financial situation, I am not quite as... I still want to take some levels of this, and we do have it unlocked now. However, it's worth noting here that organization reform, it looks like they may have listed, this wasn't listed in the update notes. However, it is lower than it was. I think they dropped this organization reform cost a little bit. It's still pretty expensive, but not like it was before. And you know, because of the bug and the way they implemented, which they have now fixed, I'm basically using organization reform. And kind of the gamey thing to do would be, well, I still got it anyway because of your bug, and so I don't need this. And I really don't. However, in the spirit of, yeah, I was supposed to use the organization reform. That was the intent. I think I'm going to go ahead and take it, and that will allow us to create more Army HQs if I want to, and not just be taking advantage of a bug that's not supposed to be there, and isn't anymore. And then the other thing is, I think I might take one of these lower cost gunboats policies in order to flesh out that Mississippi squadron and ensure that it's got the power it needs to establish control and keep control of the Mississippi up there around St. Louis. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take organization reform. I don't need to, I just feel like it's the right thing to do. And I'm going to go ahead and... So the Confederate gunboats gets us those cotton-clad rams, and the armored gunboats gets us the timber-clad and tin-clads. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get these Confederate gunboats. That gets us some cotton-clad rams, and I'm going to build just a few of those. One could easily argue very validly that I did not need to do either of those, and I would agree. So, you know, let the comments fly. What are you doing? What are you doing? But really, one could... You know what? I'm not going to say that. I was about to say one could just ignore Navy entirely in this game. And up through 1.05, I think that was true. I think one needs to pay a little bit more attention now, 1.06, just for the blockade trade stuff. But anyway, I'm going to build some cotton clads, for which I need a level 1 port. Yeah, we got those. And we will build... I think 4 will be enough. What do they cost? 134k. You know, let's build 6. And the question is, how long are they going to take to build? It doesn't tell you ahead of time. Or if it does, I've never noticed it. 90 days. That's a little bit faster than I expected. And then once these are built, we'll just plug those into that Mississippi squadron, and I think that will be fine. Matter of fact, I may not even wait for the big campaign in Missouri if that ever happens. I may just send them up here to plonk that fleet regardless. Because they haven't done it yet. Right? But this fleet could just sail right up and just trash all of our gunboats very easily. And even though they haven't done it, and kind of the way the AI is, they probably won't. I do want to kind of like honor the threat of what the AI, of what the Union could do to us, and I want to remove that threat. Okay. I think that's enough about Navy stuff and projects and finances. I think it's time for us to go. No, I want to do one other thing before doing that. I'm going to go ahead and send Garnett's Corps up here to Wheeling. still within Beauregard's command radius, and so Hardy's Corps is able to reinforce if it gets in any trouble up there. But I'm kind of hoping that because, even though it's so far north and kind of exposed, I'm kind of hoping that because Wheeling is a Virginia town, that the Union isn't going to go all nuts and try to recapture it immediately. We'll see how they react to that. Okay. We want Cincinnati back because we want to maintain control of the Ohio. And that means Hill and Ewell and Johnston need to get on up. And let's move Johnston up a little closer. Moving to sec. Let's just advance time just enough to see what the Intel and Econ reports are going to tell us on August 1st. And I'm still tempted to, you know what, I'm going to hold off and wait till he completes that supply depot. Because that'll be nice to have when we retake Cincinnati. Let's do that. It should be Johnston. Yeah. They're in place. They're just waiting for the supply depot. Okay, readiness is coming up on our little gunboat forces. There's our Mississippi squadron coming up the river. That's Rousseau. Who seemed to have pretty good stats, so I just left him there. I was going to put Franklin Buchanan in charge of this, but actually their stats were about the same, so I just left Rousseau in command. Oh, okay, we're in August now. So, let's see. Okay, as of August 1st, we're at BBB+, which is good. Debt unchanged. Recovery. Public wealth, below average and increasing. Good, good. Tax revenues increased by $160 million during the last month. I think that's that tariff revenue. There's that factory built in the last episode being reflected there. Exports and imports continue to increase, and of course, but the imports way, way, way outstrip. That's not going to change. Average corporate production, 14 billion. A change of minus 9.6 billion. That seems odd. I don't know what's up with that. And so they're saying that we're now lacking wool, iron ore, and niter? That doesn't seem right. Iron ore seems right, yeah. I know about that. I mean, that's been true throughout the campaign. I'm pretty suspicious of niter and wool. Because if we look at... where's wool? Yeah, we're producing 250,000 and demand is 21,000. So, really? Now that could be, transportation issues. Maybe, there may be shortages somewhere of wool and overproduction in other areas because of the supply infrastructure in between those 2 points. So that's probably what's driving that, but producing more wool is not the answer unless we can identify where those wool shortages are and put more farms right in those areas. I'm not feeling a huge need to do that. And then niter, the same sort of thing. We're producing 200,000 of the stuff, and the demand is 65,000. And in any case, we can't. Niter is a mine item. We just have 2 mines. They're more than sufficient for what's needed, but I see no reason. We can't build more niter mines anywhere, and I see no particular reason to upgrade the 2 that we do have. Iron ore, yeah. It is a shortage. However, our production has increased well enough that that's not very much of a gap. We're producing 251K, and the demand is 254. So we're just about even. So more is getting produced at that single mine in Tennessee at Knoxville. What is Intel telling us? Oh wow, there's a lot here. Oh, okay. So the federal government, they've already done USCT, and they have done bounties, and now they are looking for the draft on their side. Okay. They've done recruitment offices. There's some more manpower boost, and admin reform to speed up their own policy research. There's relations with Spain still 0. Whatever. 54,000 men recruited during the past month into 27 brigades. Okay. Following units formed: the 35th Army and the 36th Army. I think these numbered armies are just like, okay, they've run out of historical names or semi-historical sounding names, and now they're just numbering them. And yet more Massachusetts Bay squadrons. This is Massachusetts Bay Squadron 25. 25 separate squadrons up here. AI ain't doing nothing with them. Our Narragansett blockade remains in place. I don't know what to say about that. Morale 97, and it has come up. But they have shifted from offensive operations to mostly defending. Okay. How much longer to this supply depot is done? 10 days. Fine. Yeah, this engineering corps, I had him over here at Paintville. He still wasn't getting enough supplies, so now I'm moving him to Louisville. The other engineering corps, I think, is fine at, yeah, he's fine down here at Jackson. Well, I think our new little gunboats have come up. They're still yellow readiness, but I think that's enough for them to go ahead and move. They'll continue to improve. Okay, Wheeling is Confederate. Nice. Hopefully that finally gets... let's just see how far this scout run can go up the Ohio. Hopefully this arrests the drop in Virginia state support. We'll see if it does. Okay, I guess you can go up this far. It's navigable up to there. Let's just shift everybody up. Let's put one right here at this bridge. Why can't that guy come over here? What's the problem with this guy's movement? Can he... I know this is all navigable. He can't move at all. Oh, because his gunboat hasn't actually arrived yet. Okay. Huh. I thought the increasing readiness kind of implied that they actually had their ships. Apparently not. Oh, yeah. Never mind. Five more days on the supply depot. Mississippi Squadron, I think, has arrived at where I told them to go. Yeah, 2 cottonclads and a timberclad. And a few more steamers. Yeah, they're staying pretty defensive, as advertised. Maybe they shifted posture from offensive to defensive because they captured Cincinnati. And that was what their intention was. And then they got it and go on the defensive. Maybe. I don't know. Oh, what is... Okay, so now Garnet's got some supply issues. I really don't want to build a supply depot up here. So the question is, if I pull him back to Grafton, is the unit going to run over here and take Wheeling? They're in defensive posture. Let's move him back just far enough that he can draw from this supply depot, but he's not that far from Wheeling. Let's see if that... Let's see what that does. Okay. That supply depot is just about done. Whereupon we will go grab it. Okay, that's looking better. Now that he's stationary, that supply percentage is coming up. Okay. All right, nice job, Garnet. Historical flavor. Okay. Well, let's at least go ahead and get across the river and initiate the battle and just see what, see how many forces we have involved on both sides. Hey, not too bad. So there's three armies over there: the 32nd, the Army of the Occupation, and the Michigan. And combined total, that's 37,000. Infantry, 12,000. So we're looking at about 50,000 men, as we expected, and they're all going to be there. We've got about 47,000. Plenty of guns on both sides. I'm kind of hoping that he's got a lot of 6-pound field guns. Now his reinforcement times are currently projected to be a little bit shorter, but that can change inside the battle. And what this says is that it's Johnston all by himself with his corps several hours away, but we've seen this kind of thing before. There's going to be at least one corps there at the start, and then we'll see what the real reinforcement time is. But anyway, so I'm going to cut out for now and get in there and kind of get things all set up, and then we'll be back for the Battle of whatever this is going to be. Cincinnati Port or something. All right. So as I continued recording, the following battle turned out to be quite long. I decided to break it up into 2 episodes, which I'll probably post at about the same time. So that'll do it for episode 37, but episode 38 should be up as you're viewing this. And, if you like the stuff we're doing on the channel, leave a like, leave a comment, maybe even subscribe. But at any rate, thank you very, very much for watching. I appreciate it.